Hello, everybody. Welcome to Picking Bones. Today we're going to talk about, do animals go to heaven or not? Um, my cat just died, and so this is something that's been on my mind lately. Like, I wondered, will I ever see her again? And I think a lot of us wonder this about our beloved pets. And the answer, like in an Orthodox perspective, is I don't know. There is no official response to this from the church, and you can definitely find people arguing in both directions, and or just speculating. Some people are very matter of fact about it, one way or another. But the fact is that like our church has no official stance on this. But I have certainly found hope in a number of things. So I'd like to talk about like what I've found as I've looked into this question. And so I've gone through most. Sorry, I've gone through most of the articles that I could find and videos on like from an Orthodox perspective on this question, and I think this one's my favorite by David Erhan, the real Med White. And so you could check out his video if you'd like to. I think his was like one of the most satisfying things I found on this. And he kind of, to set the stage, like he brings up the fact that, Christ's restoring, Christ's death on the cross, he was restoring all of creation. It's not just restoring the relationship between man and God. It's restoring the entire creation. And I think that that's an interesting point to start. But now I want to jump into some different scriptures on how animals are treated in the Bible. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is actually the story of Balaam and his donkey. Balaam is not a good prophet, but he does have a true connection to God with prophecy, and so he's supposed to be doing certain things, and he's not, of course. But Balaam, in the story, he begins to strike his donkey because his donkey stops walking along the path that he's trying to go on. And so he begins to strike his donkey because he's getting mad. He's like, why won't you go forward? And it says, and the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. And she said to Balaam, so like what I've heard people bring this story up and say like, oh, the angel spoke through, or God spoke through the donkey. No, like it's the donkey that it like gets to speak here. And she said to Balaam, what have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? And Balaam said to the donkey, because you have abused me. I wish there was a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you. So the donkey said to Balaam, am I not your donkey which you have ridden ever since I became yours to this day? Was I ever disposed to do this to you? And he says, no. And then the Lord opens Balaam's eyes, and he sees the angel of the Lord standing in the way with a sword drawn, and he bows his head and falls on his face. And the angel says to him, why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to stand against you, because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely I also would have killed you by now and let her live. Um, so I really like this story. It's a clear example of like we're expected to treat our animals right. Like we are not to abuse our authority over them. God gave us dominion over the animals, not so that we could be cruel to them or do whatever we want. I would say like the relationship between man and beast is supposed to be a mirror between the relationship of God and man. Like he has dominion over us and we have dominion over the animals. and there are lessons that can be learned through these bonds, but we are not absolutely not to abuse these creatures. God cares about these creatures, and that's made clear in the Bible. So it's in Genesis 9 where this is where man is actually given dominion over the beast. Obviously, after the fall in the garden, like we see in the story of like Cain and Abel, for example, like there's already animal sacrifices, and so clearly man already has the relationship with animals changes immediately after the fall. But it's not until Noah actually that man, he lays out like that man has dominion over the beasts. So another passage that's like famous that we'll look at is a prophecy of the new earth, of the final heaven, if you will, where it says that the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and the little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, and their young ones shall lie together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play by the cobra's hole, and the weaned child put his hand in the viper's den. So, like, there is prophecy that speaks of how animals will be brought back to their original pre-fall state, where the animals will live in peace with one another. And like this is like a beautiful image that's like a child could play with a lion, So there is absolutely an idea of animals in the new earth, and that creation will be restored to its original state. Here's another like just quick verse in Psalms. Psalm 36:6. One of the lines is, "O Lord, you preserve man and beast." I just thought that's another quick, interesting line. But the thing that like really gave me hope as I was contemplating this was just thinking about, well, why did God create the animals originally before we see man is given dominion over the animals in a new way? God creates animals just for us. It says the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and keep it, and he commanded him regarding the tree, telling him not to eat of it. But then it says, and the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Out of the ground the Lord formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whenever Adam named each living creature, that was its name. So Adam gave names to all the cattle and birds of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper comparable to him. And so then he creates woman as well. But the original purpose of these animals is to be our companions. And just knowing that is it's a beautiful thought that that was the purpose of my cat or of your beloved pet. It's like God made them to be our beloved companions. And obviously people can take that too far. That's not the point here. It's not a battle about like, should you treat your animals like your children? Of course not. But that doesn't mean like we shouldn't still care about animals and that they don't matter just because they're lesser than humans, because they're not made in the image of God like we are. They still matter. And they were made specifically to be our companions. So why would they be like erased from existence then? if that's why they were made. They were made, and they were not made to die either. Death was not brought into creation until man fell. So animals and all of their suffering and death is because of man. They are innocent victims in the history of creation. So, looking at some of the responses, though, of just different articles on this topic, like I found a lot of them really unsatisfying. This article talks about, like, it's kind of speculating, will we see our pets in heaven? He kind of Father Farley leans towards we will, but he's just kind of speculating. He brings up the story Watership Down by Richard Adams, where essentially it talks about how, like, their souls will be, like, recycled. The rabbits that die, their souls kind of might be recycled in some way. He says it's fiction, of course, but I would like to focus on the particular image that is of Hazel flowing inexhaustibly, the life of Hazel, flowing inexhaustibly out of him into the other rabbits. Reading this, I wonder if perhaps something like this might be possible in the age to come. So, like, something about an idea of, like, the animals that we have, like, they're annihilated essentially, but their soul essence is, like, put into the other animals. So a lot of people seem to, like, argue, like, well, there will be animals, but, like, maybe not our specific animals. I find this really uncomfortable and weird. There's nothing like this in Christianity, like soul recycling. This is a very, like, Eastern religion concept of, like, reincarnation. I think it's really nonsensical. If we're just going into, like, blind speculation about what might happen to our animals, like, this is a weird place to take it. In my opinion, but, like, where are you gonna go? Like, either, like, they're alive or they're dead, or you have to get real weird with it, like this, where it's like, yeah, some sort of soul recycling, which, like, I find that, like, so far from anything we see in Christianity. It does sound like another religion. C.S. Lewis, this is an article from an Orthodox person looking at C.S. Lewis's speculation on this topic. C.S. Lewis had talked about, like, maybe the animals that we do form these special bonds with, that we do form these true companionships with, that these animals, in fulfilling their purpose, become more full, and that those animal souls that have achieved this true purpose, that those are more full, and that those souls will remain, which I find that an interesting point. Let me read this quote from him. Man was appointed to God to have dominion over the beast, and everything a man does to an animal is either a lawful exercise or a sacrilegious abuse of a authority of divine right. The tame animal is therefore, in the deepest sense, the only natural animal, the only one we see occupying the place that it was made to occupy. So, if we're going to be speculating totally out there, like, I find this speculation sounds more in line with Christianity and makes more sense to me, but it's still just kind of seems like wild speculation to me. I saw some people saying this Father Stephen DeYoung might have this perspective, and I did see like some different comments while looking through things. Like some people seem to hold this view. I think it's interesting because it's at least getting to that fact that like animals were made to be our companions, and there's something special about that. But so some of the articles and responses to this question, though, like I really didn't like, and I noticed that like the ones that are more sure of their perspective are typically the ones saying no, they are gone, and these articles will just say pets do not go to heaven. Why pets do not go to heaven? Like it's a settled issue. Here's another one. All dogs do not go to heaven, but most dogs have some heaven in them. So like some of these articles and responses from people are very like Father Trenum was very like this. It's like, no, animals don't go to heaven, or like they fade away essentially after they die. And I'm like, is it just me not liking this because I want to see my cat again, or is that like guttural feeling of like I don't like that? Is there more to that? There are other people like Father Tryphon talking about like he thinks they will. He says, finally, one of my favorite bishops said, animals were with Adam and Eve in paradise, so why on earth wouldn't they be in heaven? From Callistus, where, like it's a debated topic. So like the ones that are like, no, they're absolutely not, those made me especially uncomfortable, and that caused me to keep dwelling on this question. And here's one more article I'll point out from St. Seraphim Sara of Orthodox Church. Additionally, the animal world is self-contained, whereas man is the only creature of God who needs the other, i.e., God to accomplish his full potential. The animal is unable to perceive the revelation as it involves a certain activity which implies appropriate mental and volitional abilities. Semyon Frank. The animal does not know the spiritual thirst. When it is calm, full, and satisfied, it is happy. This is not what man is. Reverend Alexander Men. Meanwhile, the Reverend Alexander Men was hoping that the animal souls were immortal and would go to heaven because they knew no treachery nor other human vices. Saint Xenia has a quote that's it's something along the lines of, my dog is better than I am because it loves but does not judge. Animals are pure. Like they are not guilty of sin as we are. And here's a quote from Saint Luke of Crimea. He believed that the spirits of animals is also tied to the body like ours, and therefore there's every reason to expect that their bodies will exist in the new nature, in the new universe, after the death of the present world. So you can absolutely find Orthodox people on either side of this issue, even saints on either side of this issue. And so, it's hard to find a satisfying answer to all this. But I think the thing that stands out to me most is going back to like David's point, like creation, all of creation is redeemed through what Christ did on the cross. And here's a passage from Romans. For I consider that the sufferings of the present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly awaits for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope, because the creation itself will also be delivered out of the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs together until now. Not only that, but we also, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, eagerly awaiting for the adoption and for the redemption of our body. All of creation groans. The animals, all of creation knows that we are in this fallen state, that this is wrong, that this is not how things are meant to be, and they yearn for it to be fixed. So the scope of redemption of what Christ did is universal. Christ is saving not just man, but the universe is being restored to its proper state. And so if our animals die and they stay dead, this just seems to diminish what Christ did. It gives death a partial victory over creation. All of these beloved companions which God made for us, they're being annihilated. Like, how could this be? How, like, if Christ defeated death, trampling down death by death, how could it be that these animals die and stay dead? It seems to me that this cannot possibly be, because it diminishes what Christ did on the cross. Oh, death, where is your sting? Oh, Hades, where is your victory? If Kitty Pryde is dead and gone forever, that stings. Death still has a sting. Death has defeated her and all of these animals throughout history because of the fall of man. So, like, Christ's death somehow failed to redeem all of creation. If this is true that these animals are just dead and gone forever, then that means that Christ's victory over death is incomplete. I don't know how you can get around this point. It kind of has fully convinced me that these animals must not be dead because Christ has defeated death. So I don't know if I've articulated this the best. I hope so, though, and I hope that these things give you hope. I mean, ultimately, the answer is, though, like, we don't know. But I think that what we know about God and creation and the animals from the Bible, like, it simply makes no sense to me that these animals are dead and gone forever. And some sort of soul recycling, like they're transformed into new animals or something. Like, this is just, it seems so far from Christianity that we know. And so, I'll also say, like, when we say memory eternal, for people who have fallen, we're asking God that they will be remembered forever, that their existence will go on. And I see no problem asking that for our pets, for our beloved companions as well. And so I love you, Kitty Pryde. And I'll pray that your memory will be eternal. And this is my cat. So I hope that this video has been a comfort for you if you're seeking answers to these questions. And that's all I got for you. Have a good day.